Hello, and welcome to another video where we're cleaning out the pantry today. We're starting out with some angel food cake that I was given to. It took a cup and 1/4 of water, and then you just pour in the bag and mix that up. It was like the most simple baking recipe I've ever done. It actually foamed up quite more than I expected. So as you're going to see in a second here, when I was pouring it in, it was kind of overfilling and I knew it was going to expand. So I'm going to have to correct myself eventually. See that first one. Now, it was actually quite a large recipe, so I was able to fill up a loaf pan as well. It didn't have me grease it or anything. You just pour it straight on in there. So I also made an angel food cake loaf. Now we're moving on to Jello. This is lemon Jello. I don't drink dairy milk. It upsets my stomach. So we have oat milk here, and it did not turn out as good as it would have if I had regular milk. But you got to do with what you have. Yet another, just pour it straight in there. It required 2 cups of milk and then just the package. You just mix it up and put it in the fridge. This is another thing that was just given to me. I don't normally buy these things. Now this is a recipe that I make all the time, and I just kind of like made it up as I went. Just chop up as many apples as you have laying around that have gotten a little bit more soft than you would like them. I like my apples extra crispy, so these apples were not cutting it. They had gotten a little bit mushy, and like where you can taste like the little granules in the, like, no. Look at my master cutting skills. I did not cut any fingers whilst filming this, so it was a success. We had quite a lot of apples that needed to be chopped up, so this took quite a while. Once you have all of them chopped up, just kind of like separate them apart, grab all your spices. I just kind of eyeball everything. Sugar was the first thing that I put on there. Then I went on to the salt. Just add a little bit of that sweet and salty. Not too much salt though, I've made that mistake before. Some nutmeg, just a little bit. Nutmeg goes a long way. I'm thinking this is, yeah, that's the allspice. Again, just a little bit, not too much. You can go crazy on this next one, the cinnamon. Have fun with it. Make it look pretty. That's your paint. And then my special little extra is cardamom. It makes it taste so good. And then you want to add a little bit of lemon juice at the end, just to kind of move those spices from the top layer and integrate them in the lower layer. Even though you're going to mix it up later, I think it just kind of like wets down the spices a little bit better. I tried it with a spoon. I almost tore the foil, so I just ended up doing it with my hands. Mix that bad boy up and separate all the pieces of apple that haven't already been separated. And then just make sure when you're done that they're all laying flat for this next step that we are going to do eventually. I made that bowl in high school. Now, again, just eyeballing it. Those are oats. I think probably about 2 to 3 cups I did for, I forget how many apples it was. A lot of apples. It's an 8x8 tin that I'm using to bake it in. Some sugar. Again, eyeballing. I eyeball everything in this. I don't know why, but that's brown sugar. That definitely helps with making it kind of like caramely at the end of baking. And I also already have the oven set to 375. I baked this for 45 minutes. You're going to want a whole stick of butter. But as you can see, that stick of butter had just come out of the fridge and it was still quite hard. So I tried to dethaw it. As you can see, my dethawing skills are not that good with microwaves. Add a little bit of flour. This is also something that I forgot to add in the apples, is you want to add flour. Put a little salt in there, some more cardamom, all the same spices that we used in the apples as well. You're just going to want to add that to the topping. That's what this is, the crumble topping. Mix all of it up. You can mix it with a spoon, but I would suggest using your hands because the spoon is just, all the dry ingredients are going to go flying. It doesn't like mush it up as much as you need to. Your hands are perfect for it. So then what you're going to do is just take the topping and sprinkle it over the top as evenly as you can. Eventually when you get to the end of it, you want to make sure that like the edges are covered, there's not too many apples showing, and it's kind of packed down but not so packed that like you're gonna have a tart instead of a cobbler. Now let's see what Lydia's doing here. Lydia is making a beer bread. This is another one that I like to make on the regular because we buy beers that we think that we're gonna like and then end up not liking them. So I'm pouring in this like s'mores flavored beer. It was okay. It was kind of weird. So it makes a really good bread. And this is the last one that I had. Don't forget to recycle that can. Now I'm adding flour. It calls for 3 cups of flour. So I have all the measurements for this one. This is a recipe my mom used to make a lot. After the flour, you're going to want 3 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of sugar, your 12-ounce can of beer, and then you're going to want to melt half a cup of butter. And this is also baked at 375 for an hour. Now, of course, I would be wearing an apron if I had one or made the effort to go get one, but of course, when you're mixing, you get a whole bunch of stuff all over you. Ooh, here's the unpanning of my angel food cake. That was a little fun. I had to use a butter knife to get the edges off, and then I could, aggressively smack it on the counter until it pops out. But thankfully, angel food cake bounces back. Nice and fluffy little guy, because I need that pan for my beer bread. I only have one bread pan, so the angel food cake and the beer bread had to share. Now, if you want to be fancy like me, you can get some cheese and just chop it up or sprinkle it or whatever. Try and get it inside the batter because you don't want it to burn on the top. Maybe having it poke out of the top a little bit is okay, but you don't want to leave it out there too much because then you're just going to have a hard piece of cheese on top of your bread. So I split my slices into 4 pieces and then just kind of layered them from one side to the other of the pan. I don't do this every time. You don't have to do this. It turns out beautifully without it. You can also put other things in there like nuts, or I don't know why you would put raisins in there because it's kind of a savory bread, but you can do whatever you want. So I just shoving the cheese in there with the knife and then spreading it over the top to try and cover that cheese as much as possible. Also, disclaimer, I am not anywhere a professional chef or anybody to take advice from besides just doing home projects. Sprinkle a little bit of salt on the top, make it look fancy. And there you go. There you have it. That's been my video with you guys. Subscribe, do all the beautiful things that keep this channel going, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.